And all he does is offer to help. So she says, okay, I'm going to run back to the apartment and grab all my things and then get out of there. And that's where the actual twist. So again, massive spoilers here, but we're into it. So we meet her landlady, who has not changed this room that she's been living in for.
And the whole movie's been so super
years.
Sweet, understanding.
She's been very nice. She's a strict landlady, no boys after dark and whatnot. But like, yeah,
she's an old lady. Of course, she doesn't want riffraff coming in and out.
Yep, and that meeting turns murderous very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so, ultimately we discover that Sandy didn't die at all, and in fact, Sandy was the one who killed Jack, and then she's been killing many of these men and all of these ghosts that Eloise thought were the haunting of Sandy, and the evil men who had haunted Sandy over the course of her life are in fact haunting this building because their murders have never been solved.
And their bodies are stuffed in the floorboards and in the walls of this building.
And their bodies are everywhere. And so it is it's a fascinating twist. It's a very Hitchcockian twist, which I really, really enjoy. But it also changes the context of it to being something that's just like, honestly, something that in our current climate is super predictable, which is just like, yay, hero woman murders the evil man, like, which I've seen that play out again and again and again and again, to something where it's like actually opens the door to a question like, which of these two was the worst person? I mean, Jack was horrible, and Jack did unspeakable things to Sandy. It seems to me, though, that once Sandy had murdered, I believe, and I don't know that the movie makes this perfectly clear, but I believe that all of the subsequent murders happened after she murdered Jack. I believe Jack was the first, and then the rest of the men that she had murdered afterwards. And that's the point at which I start to wonder who, okay, there's a case for self-defense with Jack. There is not a case at all of self-defense when you are inviting men up to your room with their expectation that they will be,
entertained,
paying for entertainment, let's say, and they get murdered instead. And she did that dozens of times, maybe hundreds of times, it seems. And so she is a brutal mass murderer. And we can talk about trauma and everything else, but like, she made those choices. That was not a spur of the moment. Those were premeditated killings.
And even if we were to be our most generous selves here and allow that she was dealing with trauma, she was dealing with abuse, and those men were awful and deserved to die. All right, fine. But she poisoned Eloise.
And she poisons Eloise.
And then stabs.
And she stabs John.
Yep.
Yeah. That cannot be justified to me.
She is actually a horrible person.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting, I think, where we get to, first of all of those subverted expectations are done in a really, I almost hesitate to use the word wonderful way because it's all terrifying and just gross and disturbing, whatever. But like, truly from a filmmaking standpoint, it is excellent because it's stuff that, like, even if you sort of predicted bits of it, like if you predicted the twist where she killed Jack and not the other way around, for example, I don't think you would have gotten that she murdered hundreds of other people or expected her to murder Eloise or try to murder Eloise, because I think, at the very end of the day, you would assume that all of those other killings were justified because she was abused. And in fact, we're not actually totally saying that. We're kind of saying, like, maybe we can justify Jack, but I don't think we can justify all of these other ones. And to your point, Jen, we certainly can't justify covering it up with more murders, and that's a pretty big jump. And it's an interesting one that not a lot of movies, I think, would have taken. And I think that's why it became one of my favorites, really, is I mean, apart from all of the the directing style and everything else, I think it actually has something to say in a way that most horror movies, thriller movies just don't.
No.